Welcome back to my channel. Working from home has been getting to me, so do not look at this appearance. This is rough. It is full quarantine mode over here in my residence. But alright, let's get to part 3 of our pre-PA FAQ. Remember that this is a collab with Paul, the PA student, and his video is a bit different than mine. Some of my answers will be only on my videos, and his answers, some of them will be only on his video, so be sure to check out his video when you are done with this one. Alright, so let's get started. So the first question is, would taking a prerequisite at a community college look bad? And the answer is no. So many PAs or PA students that I know took almost like a majority of their prerequisites at a community college, and they were just as competitive. Unless the school specifies that they do not accept community college classes, then they're good to go. Obviously, the only thing that schools are usually a little bit iffy about are online classes, so if you're trying to take an online community college class, that's probably a no-go. I would definitely check with the schools on their website. Sometimes they're okay with certain prerequisites versus others. So I would just check their website to make sure that whatever course you're trying to take is acceptable at the schools you want to apply to. My argument for this, when people ask like, why do PA schools accept community college classes when like med school doesn't? So a lot of the people who are going into the PA profession are career changers, so that means that they got their bachelor's degree years ago. So of course they're not going to go back to undergrad to get just a few of their prerequisites done, so they usually go to community colleges. So therefore a lot of PA schools are really open to community colleges, since the career is built on a lot of people changing from being a nurse for many years or being, a technician for many years and wanting to increase their scope of practice. Same goes for you even if you're just graduating college. If you take community college classes, you are no less competitive than the next applicant who took them at their university. What really matters overall is your grades that you get in those classes, and then all of your experiences outside of your GPA, because your application is so much more than just your GPA.
And I had to retake some classes myself, so I think I'm going to be answering from experience there. Community college is cheaper. Sometimes it's what works best, especially after you had graduated school and you're working and you need a class that works with your schedule, so most likely community college might be helpful. I don't think it will hinder you. It's the same material. As long as it is an approved community college, an approved course, I don't think that will hinder you in any ways.
The next question is how to address bad grades in your personal statement. So if this is something that you feel is pertinent to your application or your story as like a pre-PA getting to PA school, then I would definitely include it. So I personally included a situation like that. So I had a C in my freshman year chemistry class because I just really did not know how to navigate undergrad. So in my essay, I included that at the time I was a freshman, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew about the PA profession, but I wasn't set on it. But then after I discovered the pre-PA club, I was sold on the PA profession. So from that point on, my GPA trend was, a good upward trend. But I did not dwell on the fact that I got a C. I actually did not even mention that I got a C. I just mentioned that I wasn't familiar with how college worked, those types of concepts, and then said I've learned so much about how, I like to study and all of those typical things. So I showed that I did have, a little bit of a discrepancy. My first semester, my grades weren't the greatest, but I learned from that. And I showed that once I had, the PA profession on my mind, from that point on, everything just was an upward trend. So if you want to include, discrepancy in your application, that is great. They really like that usually you're honest, but do not spend 3-4 sentences of your personal statement explaining everything you did wrong. That is the time to explain to them, in one sentence, kind of, discrepancy that you had. The next 3-4 sentences need to be what you learned from it and how that will make you a better PA school student. So yes, of course, address, that bad grade or whatever it is, but you better make sure that you wrap it up to where when that person reads that paragraph, they're not thinking like, I don't know if they're going to be a good PA student because they had all these struggles and I don't really know if they learned from it. Versus if you talk about everything you learned from it and how it'll make you a better student and you've learned more about yourself and your study skills, then they'll see that you've learned from your past and that you're going to apply that to when you're in PA school, so they're not going to have any doubts about you and your ability to, get through PA school. So you don't have to shy away from including, real life struggles that you've been through, but make sure to include what you've learned from it and how you've grown from it and all of the positives that came out of that negative. Alright, so next question is, when did you submit your application and when is considered early?
The answer to this question is not simple. It's going to depend on your situation. It's going to depend if you're applying to a rolling admission program versus non-rolling admission programs. It's going to depend how your application looks. For healthcare experience, for example, if you are at 1,800 hours. The program you're applying to requires 2,000 hours of experience. It's April, CASPA just opened, and you want to go ahead and apply. If you apply right now, they might not take into consideration the 200 hours that you would have gotten if you waited a month and a half. So what I recommend is make sure when you're applying, your application is complete. So for example, if you are going to apply early, make sure that your application is complete, your application is perfect. There's nothing that you're going to add in the next couple of months.
So I submitted my application in like 2 batches. I did 2 applications in June and then 2 applications in August. The applications in June were obviously rolling admission schools, and then the 2 in August were non-rolling admission schools. So rolling admissions basically means first come, first serve. So once people start submitting their application, the schools will start looking at those applications. So if they want to interview those people first and offer them spots, that means less spots later on in the application cycle. So for non-rolling, say they have a deadline of October 1st. So up until October 1st, people can submit and they will not look at anybody's application until after that deadline. So it basically means that there's no benefit in applying early to non-rolling schools. So if their deadline's in October and you apply in June, they're not going to look at your application until October. So I graduated in May. I didn't get my transcripts until the end of May. So I didn't submit my first earlier applications until June because I wanted to make sure my last semester, all of the grades were counted into my CASPA GPA, because once you submit your application, CASPA does not recalculate your GPA. Whatever you have in there is what's in there, and then you'd have to update schools if you had courses in progress. So I wanted to optimize my chance because I ended up getting a 4.0 my last semester with a decent amount of credits, so that really helped my GPA overall. So to me, June was like my kind of early because that's when I was ready to apply. And people say, it really depends. Everybody says something different. Some people say you have to apply May to be early. Some people say, oh, June's fine. But I've known people who have applied in August to rolling schools and they still got in. So you do want to prepare and try to do everything as early as possible. But if your application is not ready, if you're not ready to submit and you submit anyways just to be early, you're doing yourself a complete disservice. If you're applying to schools rushing to get your application out there and you have spelling errors, you forget some experiences, you don't have your personal statement edited by somebody else, who cares if you're applying 2 weeks earlier than you would have if you had done all of those things? Sure, the timing matters and it is really important to apply early, but if your application is nowhere near ready, applying those couple extra weeks early is not going to help you out. So I would say, I guess if you're trying to apply early, maybe shoot for at least June, but really do not apply until you are confident in your application and you have double checked everything. The last question is, how did you get your volunteer hours and how did you know where to start? So a lot of my volunteer hours actually ended up being patient care experience, and that's just because I started some things out early and then I continued them throughout my undergrad. So it took up a big chunk of my time. So I started volunteering at a clinic on my campus during my sophomore year, and that was a volunteer physical therapy aide. And from then I talked to my advisor and I found out about the MDA summer camp, and I started doing that also my sophomore year summer. So I would say to start volunteering, I would start slow, and I would definitely not start until you have at least completed maybe 1 semester of undergrad. Undergrad is a lot different than high school in terms of the actual courses you have to take, balancing the different types of courses, and then just socializing and figuring out how to navigate through college yourself. Everything, when that comes together, it can be very overwhelming. So do not try to jam pack your schedule with volunteer, patient care, all these experiences until you know how to navigate through college. So I would say that once you're ready and you have everything set and you're able to add an additional experience to your plate, I would say start slow. So even if you start volunteering somewhere once a month, once a week, whatever, it really does add up. Imagine if you volunteered somewhere maybe twice a month all the way from your freshman year until your senior year. That's a lot of hours that add up. Although it's a small commitment, in the grand scheme of things, only twice a month for a few hours, which is really not bad. At the end of it, you'll probably end up with hundreds of hours. So don't feel like you need to have some kind of crazy experience where you're doing all these hours per week, because PA schools do like to see that you are consistent and that you've been doing something for a long period of time. So even if you start your freshman year and volunteer once a month at Habitat for Humanity, or volunteer at a nursing home once every week or something, those hours will really add up and they'll see that you've been committed to that organization since your freshman year. And my biggest recommendation to you would be to actually volunteer in a population that you are genuinely interested in. Do not pick a population that you think the schools would like to see you volunteer in. But for volunteer, like I said, I was a volunteer physical therapy aide. I did the MDA summer camp. I was a volunteer pre-PA peer mentor. I also did like random volunteering events with my pre-PA organization, so I kind of clumped that into one like thing on my CASPA and just included like all the walks and stuff that we did. And then also while I was abroad, I volunteered in a nursing home, and then I also helped a group called Pathway Kitchen, and we handed out food and like shelter and clothing to individuals who were homeless in the Leeds community. On a lot of applications, you'll get asked like why you wanted to work with a certain population, and I was even asked in my interview if I can work with one population, who would I work with, and I said individuals with disabilities, and I've had multiple experiences with that community. So luckily when I got asked that question, I had an answer ready and I had experiences to back that up. So you want to make sure your volunteering shows like a passion about community that you are really interested in. I would say just get started wherever you can. It will all add up in the end. And I would start maybe with like your pre-PA club at your undergrad, or even look up like local community events. There are so many volunteer opportunities out there, so you just have to really look hard and figure out which one you connect to the most. But alright, that summarizes up part 3 of our pre-PA FAQ. We still have so many of your questions answered, so make sure to check back every Sunday for a new video. Also, do not forget to go check out Paul's version of this video on his channel, which is linked below. If you are liking my videos and you'd like to see more, please don't forget to subscribe, and also hit that little bell icon to be notified when I post. If you have any questions related to anything pre-PA, you can always message me on my Instagram at whitecoatchasing. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!